I think Nikon were hoping to cause quite a stir with their new mirrorless announcement, and to be fair, they have. I just don't think it was quite the stir that they were hoping for. It's been a very kind of polarizing announcement that split a lot of people's opinions on various different topics. Now, judging by your comments from my video a few days ago, as well as what other channels have been saying, comments on their videos and other forums and stuff like that, there's a lot of topics of discussion regarding these new Nikon cameras, two of which I want to cover today. The big one, obviously, is the dual memory cards, whether that is a deal breaker or not, but I will get onto that in a second. The first bit I want to discuss, though, is the names of the cameras. Because in the video that I did a few days ago, I referred to them as the Z6 and the Z7. A couple of people in the comments wanted to know why I called them the Z6, not the Z6, because that's what Nikon say that the cameras should be called. Reason is very simple, because in British English, that is a Z, not a Z, a Z. Comes from the Latin zeta. Only in America do they pronounce that as a Z. In every other English-speaking country on the planet, it is a Z. So that is why I call it the Z6 and Z7. If Nikon wanted to call the camera the Z6 and Z7, they should have called it the Z. Well, that's enough of that anyway. Let's move on to the main topic of discussion today, which is the dual memory card slots. Is it a deal breaker or not? Now, some people have come out and said dual card slots is a must for professional photographers. And Matt Granger highlighted a very important point on his video, which is kind of define professional photographer. It covers too broad a spectrum to say that all professional photographers need dual card slots. It does entirely depend on what you are using the camera for. Studio photographers, for example, if you're tethering up to a computer, that is essentially your backup already. Then, you know, 2 card slots is a waste of time for you. One will be sufficient because you're firing tethered. But people out and about on the go don't have the luxury of being able to shoot tethered, like wedding photographers. Now, I have seen some backlash from people commented saying, well, I don't shoot weddings, a lot of people don't shoot weddings, why are they designing a camera specifically for wedding shooters? It's not a specific to wedding shooters, okay? It's not just only wedding shooters need dual card slots and everybody else can do without. Wedding photography is just the kind of obvious example. It's the easiest to understand because it's the extreme case, okay? Weddings are a one-time thing. It's not like if you lost all the pictures, you could just go back and redo it, because that is a very in-the-moment sort of thing. You've got all the guests there dressed up, you've got the venue all done up, you know, all the emotions in everybody's expressions and stuff. That is all as it happens. That's not put on. That is happening right there and then. If you cock it up, if you lose those pictures, you cannot just go back and redo it. So weddings are the easy to understand. They're the most extreme case, but they're not the only case where 2 card slots is a benefit. I personally will use 2 cards shooting backups of each file if I am doing any shoot where somebody's paid me to be there. Because I personally am not prepared to take the risk of having to phone up my client after the shoot and go, listen, you know those pictures you came to get me to do? Well, you know, they're all gone. Can we redo it? As I've said, weddings you just cannot redo, okay? If you lose the pictures from somebody's wedding, the only thing that you can give the client at the end of the day is a refund and a wholehearted apology, and your reputation's taken a dent. But even things like commercial work, product photography, portraits, doesn't matter, whatever it is. For me personally, if somebody's paid me to go and take those photos, I'm just not prepared to take the risk that something might go wrong. This leads on to the one single statement that anybody who kind of defending single card slots will eventually make, which is memory cards rarely fail. Well, for anyone who says, oh, memory cards rarely fail, so, you know, I'm not prepared to take that risk, let me put this analogy to you then. Most modern commercial airlines have 2 engines. Now, that plane will actually fly on 1 engine. So if you have a 2-engined aircraft and one of the engines just completely stops working, the aircraft can still continue and fly with the 1 engine. But I will bet anybody with their life savings that if you went to the airport and you saw a 737 parked out on the gate with only 1 engine fitted to the wing, and they said, well, it's okay, it will fly fine with 1 engine, not a problem, your immediate response would be, yeah, but what if that engine breaks? I mean, how often do commercial airline engines fail? Very rarely. Have you ever had one fail on a flight? Probably not. But would you get on a plane knowing that there was only one engine, and if it went, that was it, game over? Probably not. You know, I'm unlikely to have a car accident, but I will still wear a seatbelt. Anytime I go on holiday, it's unlikely that anything's going to happen, and so far nothing ever has, but I still take out travel insurance. Yes, memory cards rarely fail, but likewise, cameras rarely fail, and yet I would never go on a paid shoot without a second camera body of some variety, so that if something did happen to my camera for whatever reason, I have a backup right there and then. So shooting a second memory card as a backup is essentially like an insurance policy, okay? You hope you're never going to use it. Odds are you never will need it, but if you do end up needing it, it becomes absolutely invaluable. I personally have had 2 memory cards fail on me. They were a few years ago, I grant you. It was back when I was using my Canon 5D Mark III and I was using Lexar Professional CF cards. And in the space of about 6 months, I had 2 of the cards corrupt and just flatline on me, couldn't be used again. First one went, it was an unfortunate incident. It didn't happen while I was on a shoot. I went to put the card in before a shoot and format it, and it just wouldn't have it. Tried to put it in my computer couldn't read it either, so that card just went in the bin. Less than 6 months later, in the middle of a wedding, get a warning error to say that one of the cards isn't working anymore. Thankfully, I had a second card in the camera shooting a backup anyway, so I wasn't too worried about it. But yeah, that card went in the bin. The rest of my Lexar cards went in the bin, and I switched over to SanDisk because I just was not prepared to take the risk with them anymore. Now that leads on to another point, which is a valid argument as well, that a few years ago, cameras never had dual memory card slots. You only ever had one memory card. And I appreciate that point because a few years ago, I was shooting weddings with Canon 5D Mark IIs, and they only have a single memory card slot. Fair enough. So if a memory card went on that, yeah, I still lost that memory card. I was minimizing my risk as best as I could with that because I was using 2 camera bodies throughout the entire day. So I was constantly switching between 2 cameras. When the 5D Mark III came out, one of the big features that drew me away from the Mark II to the Mark III, along with the autofocus and stuff, was that dual memory cards, that having that security, knowing that I had a safety net if something did go wrong. And from that point on, I will be very reluctant to go back to any camera with a single card slot. Okay, I'm not saying I wouldn't go to a camera with a single card slot, but I would be very, very reluctant. There would have to be something hugely beneficial about that camera to kind of outweigh that potential risk. You know, I think nowadays, particularly in higher end cameras, dual memory card slots is more like an expected normality rather than a big selling point. You know, in very much like most mid and high range cameras, you kind of expect to have an articulating screen or at least a movable screen of some variety. It'd be like a car manufacturer nowadays bringing out a car that didn't have air conditioning. It's kind of just expected, nobody even questions it anymore. Whereas a few years ago, air conditioning was a big luxury selling point that only high-end cars would have, or it would be like an optional extra. You know, but nowadays, air conditioning is kind of just expected, nobody even looks for it, they just presume it's in there. So I grant you, you know, a lot of people, dual memory card slots you might never need. You know, my camera has 2 memory card slots, and it was a selling point for me. When I saw the spec sheets, I thought, yep, 2 memory card slots, we're good to go here. Be honest, I don't use the 2 memory card slots all the time. You know, if I'm just venturing out for the day on my own, snapping whatever, or a family day out or something, I'm not using 2 cards for that, okay? I might have 2 cards in the camera, but it will be set to auto switch between the 2 if one fills up. If I'm shooting these videos like that, I've got pretty much the same setup. I've got 2 cards in at the minute because I don't know how long it's going to take me to film these videos, and I don't want the camera just suddenly stopping halfway through because the memory card's filled up. So, you know, yes, if the memory card failed on me, it would be a pain in the ass, okay? I might have to sit down and reshoot a video. I might lose a couple of nice photos from a day out somewhere. It would annoy me, no questions asked. You know, I would be pretty pissed off that I've lost these pictures, but I am my own client, okay? If I've got to sit down and reshoot a video, it's a ball ache, but it's not affecting my reputation. It's not risking upsetting somebody who's paid me to do something. I am my own client. So yeah, I'll be annoyed, but I will understand the situation. But a client probably wouldn't be so understanding, okay? They've paid me to go and take photos. They expect me to turn up, take the pictures, go away, and then send them the pictures later on. If I can't fulfill that, then I don't look like a competent photographer. If I've got 2 memory cards, the client doesn't need to know anything about what's going on in the background, behind the scenes, okay? As long as I turn up, take some pictures, leave, and they get the pictures later on, they don't care, okay? They don't need to know if I've lost a memory card, if you know, I was this close to disaster of losing their pictures. They don't need to know. As far as they're concerned, as far as they see, I just turned up, did the work, went away, they got the results, they were happy with them. That is the important thing, okay? At face value, what the customer sees, they just need to see me doing my job. You know, a lot of customers won't be particularly sympathetic, okay? If you phone them up and say, yeah, my memory card's broken, I've lost all your pictures, they're not going to think, oh, poor memory card. They're going to think, where the fuck are my pictures? What are you going to do to make this right? At that point, it doesn't matter how much you bend over and kiss their ass to make things better. They will always have a tainted opinion of you because you lost their pictures. So that is why, for me personally, any paid shoot, I do not take the risk. So I'm not saying that everybody needs to have 2 memory card slots. I'm not saying professionals need to have 2 memory card slots. I am saying that if you are doing professional paid work, it's wise to back your stuff up as you go, whether that be an external recorder, tethering, 2 memory cards, whatever. Just some way of backing up your work as you go. And for me, 2 memory card slots in the camera is just the easiest, convenient way for me to do that. And I know it's unlikely that a memory card is going to fail on me to the extent that I lose all of the client's pictures, but I'm not prepared to gamble my reputation on that. But what about you guys? Do you use 2 memory card slots? Do you only use 1? Do you have a different method of backing up as you go? Have you had memory cards fail on you that have cost you jobs before? Leave your thoughts and comments in the box down below. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.